Rink-wide Vancouver, pre-game, post-game, every game, presented by Bodog from Sports Odds. The free casino games make a play at Bodog.net. Wadden and J-Pat here with you at the first edition of the pregame show of 2023. J-Pat, and it's a rematch of the 1982 Stanley Cup Final. I know you remember it vividly, but it's a new year. Is it the same old Canucks, though?
Hey, I was at the Coliseum for games 3 and 4. I saw the Stanley Cup presented that year as a young kid. Unbelievable memories, not obviously great ones for the Vancouver Canucks, but a young hockey fan getting to see that dynastic New York Islanders team. The version that's going to roll through Vancouver, not quite at that level. And of course, this Vancouver Canuck team not really threatening to get to the Stanley Cup final this spring either. New year. Same Canucks? I guess we'll find out. Happy New Year, everybody, first and foremost. But here are the Canucks coming off back-to-back losses in Winnipeg and Calgary. Before that, it was 3 straight wins. But in their last 9 games, they're 4-5. And for a team that is supposedly trying to find some traction and get moving in the right direction, it's just been really a season of one step forward, one step back after that 7-game stretch to start the year where they didn't get a victory. So on the year, the Canucks are 16, 17, and 3, a game below 500. Not good enough now. Certainly won't be good enough at season's end. If they are going to get on some sort of run, it has to start right now. But at the same time, we've talked about the difficulty of this stretch of the schedule and another tough one tonight.
Yeah, pair of games at home, and then you said it, big one, Eastern road trip that's going to be daunting for the Canucks.
Yeah, and they start in Winnipeg, where they weren't very good last week, and then on to Pittsburgh, and then down to Florida and Tampa and Carolina. So some really difficult opponents coming up, and we talk about difficult opponents. Oh, yeah, the Colorado Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champs, they got Nathan MacKinnon back over the weekend, so he'll be here in Vancouver for the next game. That's Thursday night, but tonight it's all about facing a New York Islanders team that wasn't very good in Seattle in its last game, lost 4-1, and I know that the Islanders weren't happy with the way that they played. Give the Kraken some credit. They were embarrassed on home ice by the Edmonton Oilers in their previous game, and it looked like they meant business. Islanders barely touched the puck, and so I think this is going to be a bounce-back game for the New York Islanders, who had won 3 in a row prior to the loss in Seattle, so they had some recent form, and they're going to try to find it again tonight. Can the Canucks find their form? I guess that's the question.
Let's get to the lineup change presented by Delaney's OK Tire out on Fraser Highway in Langley. Spencer Martin going to get the start and goal. Any other changes, though, up front?
An optional skate for the Canucks this morning, but a full practice yesterday, so we'll go by the practice lineup because that's quite often the way that they ultimately will play the game. Spencer Martin, back-to-back games for him. He and Colin Delia had been alternating for the last 4, but Martin was all right the other night in Calgary, and so they come back with him. Up front, the biggest change is JT Miller is going to find himself on a new line. And, of course, JT Miller has found himself in the spotlight and in the crosshairs and you name it, going back to the empty net in Winnipeg and then the line change on the shorthanded goal the other night in Calgary. And so a lot of chatter, a lot of noise around JT Miller, who's going to skate on a line with Sheldon Dries in the middle, Connor Garland on the other side. And that's going to leave Elias Pettersson with Lane Peterson and Andrei Kuzmenko. And then you've got Bo Horvat with Brock Besser and Ilya Mikheyev. So Miller with a new set of line mates, and we'll see if that can spark him again. It's been a struggle for him of late, just 3 goals in his last 19 hockey games.
It's been a struggle for the Canucks power play as of late as well. Sloppy and Calgary haven't got a power play goal over its last 3 games.
Yeah, this is now an issue, and this is a power play that has been in the top 10 and by percentage remains there, but just on form, only 3 shots on goal in 3 power plays the other night in Calgary, and they gave up that big short-handed goal to Blake Coleman. And JT Miller, we talked about him and the line change there and the fact that, there just wasn't enough hustle on the back check from anybody, and you don't want to be giving up odd man rushes. 7 short-handed goals against now for the Vancouver Canucks. So the power play that has won them some hockey games at times this season, right now it's hurting them. Power play is running at 12.5% over its last 9 games, and that's not the kind of neighborhood that we're used to seeing this Vancouver Canuck power play in.
Power play might be down a bit, but Connor Garland is starting to show signs of life.
Yeah, we mentioned, he may think of this as a demotion for JT Miller, but Connor Garland kind of quietly is showing some signs of life here. He had a goal and an assist out on the road trip. In the moment, they didn't credit him with the assist on the Sheldon Dries goal, but after the fact, he was given a helper there. So he had a goal in Winnipeg, an assist in Calgary, and he's got 8 points in his last 11 games. So that's more of the Connor Garland and the production level that we saw from him last season. He got off to a tough start, as many of the Canucks did, but Connor Garland kind of quietly coming along here, and so we'll look for him to carry on with the energy and the spins and try to make some things happen, and hey, maybe it'll work with Sheldon Dries and JT Miller as a line tonight.
Don't know what it is about the Metropolitan Division, J-Pat, but the Canucks have struggled mightily this year against it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I mean, they've had a good record within their own division, but for whatever reason against the Metropolitan, and there are good teams in every division across the National Hockey League, but just one victory in 7 games against Metro opponents. So 1-5-1 are the Vancouver Canucks, their one win against the Pittsburgh Penguins way back when, their first home ice victory of the season. But otherwise, when they've seen Metropolitan Division opponents on the schedule, they seem to roll up in a little ball here. They got to rise up to the challenge and see if they can't start 2023 off on the right foot with a victory over the visiting New York Islanders tonight.
All right, let's dive into the Islanders a little bit. You mentioned that loss to Seattle, but prior to that, they were rolling.
Yeah, they had won 3 straight, and what was impressive about the 3-game win streak was they had held all 3 of the opponents to just 1 goal, and that's more of what you expect from the New York Islanders, sort of the boa constrictor approach, just try to squeeze the life out of their opponents. And again, I said the Kraken got off to a nice start on Sunday, watched a fair bit of that game. They just didn't let the Islanders have the puck very much, and so maybe the Canucks can steal a page out of their I-5 rivals playbook and try to use that approach tonight. But something tells me that the Islanders, they're going to respond, that this is a team that wasn't happy with its performance at Climate Pledge Arena. I think they'll be better tonight, and the Canucks are going to have to be ready for that.
Coquitlam's Matt Barzal had that lone goal for the Islanders in that game, and it was a milestone for him.
Couple of milestones for him. The goal was 100th in the National Hockey League in his 400th National Hockey League game. And as you said, the pride of Coquitlam, played his junior hockey in Seattle, so you knew that he was going to be up for that one. I think he dropped the ceremonial puck at a Thunderbirds game the night before the Islanders and the Kraken played. And of course, his family made the trek down the I-5 to see him. I'm sure he'll have family and friends at Rogers Arena tonight. He is one of the most dynamic young players in the National Hockey League. He got off to a slow start, but he's starting to feel it now, and in fact has 4 goals in his last 3 games, and he's going to want to extend that streak against the Canucks tonight.
Not a whole lot of flash and dash on this Islanders team, though, but they are led by a solid core of veterans.
Yeah, you think of the Islanders and you think of Matt Barzal, and then after that, it's Brock Nelson, it's Anders Lee, it's Zach Parise. Kyle Palmieri is injured right now. He's not going to play, but Jean-Gabriel Pageau, they paid a fair bit to get him out of Ottawa. These are all guys that know what it takes to have success in the National Hockey League. They're not likely to beat you one-on-one, but when I think of the Islanders and the way that they have success, they're sort of built to have team success via committee. And so, again, don't discount the fact that they roll with a number of veteran guys that have been through the battles of the National Hockey League. And as we said, Matt Barzal's starting to come along now. He leads, and the rest of those guys will follow.
You talked about the struggles of the Canucks with their power play. Look at the Islanders, though. Dreadful as of recent.
Yeah, well, we know the Canucks struggle on the penalty kill, so maybe it's met its match here. The Islanders are 1 for their last 30. Yes, 1 for their last 30 power play opportunities. Matt Barzal has that 1 goal. But to this point, they spent much of their practice here in Vancouver yesterday rearranging the deck chairs on that power play. They're going to throw some new looks at the Vancouver Canucks, and they're just hoping to hit on something because 1 out of every 30 power play opportunities, that's not getting it done. And so power play is just too important in today's National Hockey League. So, Canucks penalty kill, it's been a struggle. Islanders power play obviously has been an issue for them.
Yeah, but they hit from the blue line, though, the defenseman putting in the goals for the Islanders.
Yeah, how about this? The Islanders lead the National Hockey League. People might be surprised. The Islanders lead the NHL in goals from the blue line. Now, Noah Dobson has 10 of their 25. So single-handedly, he accounts for 40% of the goals that they score. He's got the big point shot. This is a guy that, in fact, in his draft year, there were a lot of people that thought maybe this was the guy the Canucks would land. Of course, Quinn Hughes fell to them in that 2018 draft, and the Canucks are pretty happy about that. But I think the Islanders are pretty happy with the big right shot Noah Dobson patrolling the blue line. And so you have to be careful when he's out there. He's got 10 goals already this season. The Canucks as a team, They have 8. So Noah Dobson alone. Canucks are the lowest scoring team in the NHL, by the way. So you've got the highest scoring blue line, at least when it comes to goals, with 25. That's the Islanders and the Vancouver Canucks, the other end of the spectrum. They have just 8. And further to that point, Quinn Hughes and the goal that he scored against San Jose, his first of the year, the only goal the Canucks have from a defenseman in their last 14 hockey games.
Wow. Outside of that 1 year with Doug Weight as the head coach for the Islanders, defense has been a calling card for them, and that is again this year.
Yeah, they are a top 10 team. In fact, they come into action tonight tied for 6th in the National Hockey League in goals against per game. So they're pretty stingy. We talked about committee. Again, not a ton of star power. They've had to battle through some injuries here. But the one thing that they've got is goaltending, and they've got it for days now. Semyon Varlamov hasn't played since December the 19th, but he was activated from the injured list. I don't think he's going to start, so they probably go with Ilya Sorokin again. He played in Seattle the other night. He was the best Islander on the ice. He's running with a .926 save percentage and 4th best in the National Hockey League among starters. So if the Canucks see Ilya Sorokin, it's going to be a challenge, just as it was Connor Hellebuyck the other night in Winnipeg. When you're looking at these elite goaltenders for a Canucks team that isn't feeling it right now, it poses a challenge. But whether it's Varlamov, whether it's Sorokin, the Islanders feel that they've got a ton of depth. The only downside to all of this was that Corey Schneider, remember Corey Schneider,
yes.
Former Canuck first rounder, he was up on an emergency basis. He's going to be 37 here soon. And he was the backup in Seattle the other night. I was hoping that at the very least he would be with the Islanders coming through, maybe get a chance to catch up with him at Rogers Arena. But he was sent back to Bridgeport in the American Hockey League because they have activated Varlamov. So they're back to their 2 top goaltenders. Their road trip continues with back-to-backs in Edmonton and Calgary later in the week. I would think that Varlamov would play one of those games, but expect to see Sorokin between the pipes for the Islanders tonight.
Brock Nelson has been feeling it for the Islanders this year. However, he's my focus of my Bodog best bet tonight. I got Brock Nelson under 0.5 points. Don't think he's going to register a tally tonight. He was held off the score sheet against Seattle at plus 152, like the value there. I know Nelson's having himself a good year, but I think he'll go 2 straight games without getting a point.
Well, if he does, that certainly plays into the hands of the Vancouver Canucks. If they can keep the Islanders' top-end guys off the score sheet, there's going to be so much focus on Matt Barzal. But, you've got to be wary of guys like Nelson and Anders Lee, as we talked about. And so we'll see how that one plays out. We'll see if you can ring in the new year with a much-needed victory.
Oh, yeah. I need it as well. All right. Who's the focus tonight? Who's under the microscope? Who needs to do something in this game?
All right, well, I'm going with Elias Pettersson, and that may be low-hanging fruit. You're thinking, he's the Canucks' leading scorer. He does things most nights. I tell you where I'm looking for Elias Pettersson. It's 2023. We have flipped the calendar now. 36 games into the season. I know he missed 2. He's only played 34. He's got the big goose egg in the power play goal column. When you think of that one-timer off the right side in that right circle, it boggles my mind. And for the longest time, the Canucks power play was going, but we talked earlier, it's kind of limping along right now. It feels to me like it is time. It's time for Elias Pettersson maybe to take ownership of the power play. I'd like to see the power play funnel through him more over on the right side. It kind of feels like teams are onto this Canucks power play. They're starting to close in on Bo Horvat in the bumper. And as a result, we said just 3 power play goals in the last 24 opportunities. It feels like tonight's the night for Elias Pettersson to rise up and snap the goose egg, get into the goal-scoring column when it comes to the power play. It would be his first of the season. It's long overdue. So Elias Pettersson on the power play is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for EP40 to do something with the man advantage tonight.
Well, let's see if the Canucks can do something, get off on the right foot in 2023 with a win over the Islanders. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Pattison, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.